Hi guys, welcome to Behind Bars. My name is Keith. Today we are at the legendary Ear Inn in Tribeca, a neighborhood named Triangle Below Canal. Apparently some kind of real estate bullshit. Anyway, legendary place, and we're going to be meeting Eugene Masat, who not only trained under Charles Schuman, but worked with my own mentors from Employees Only at a place called Pravda. Come on inside. This is Eugene Masat, a legend in the city and among many of his colleagues. How did you find yourself as a career bartender in New York City coming from Turkey?
I started bartending in Munich for Charles Schuman's.
Right.
That was 1989. After 5 years, Munich became too small and I was more interested learning the culture in New York City. And then I came to New York in 1991, I believe, and I worked at the Copacabana, the legendary Copacabana on 57th Street and 12th Avenue for 2 years. But the peak was in New York, Pravda, for Keith McNally.
I forgot. So you worked with all of my mentors from Employees Only over there, and then the connection to Charles Schuman. That's pretty wild.
That's right.
Yeah. So at that point, and you came here to act initially?
Acting was definitely in my heart.
Yeah.
I came to study acting at the New School of Social Research. And as we know, acting is a long ladder to climb up to work as an actor. And I don't say I'm an actor unless I work as an actor nonstop. But my main...
I think there are a lot of bartenders that say it the other way around.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But no, for me, it's bartending and barkeeping all around the city and in Europe.
We're in obviously one of the most legendary and old bars in New York City right now. How did you come to know these guys and end up in this place?
After a certain amount of years in New York City, working so many places, getting to know so many people, owners of bars like Keith McNally, who owned Lucky Strike and Balthazar, it's not anymore about the resume, it's the people who you know.
Yeah.
And they know that you've been bartending for many, many years. And it's been now in New York City for approximately 25 years.
Sadly, the guy who ran the upstairs bar at Pravda, the dear friend of both of ours, Henry Lafargue, just passed away last week. Yes. And we had his wake. Rest in peace. We loved him very much and miss him. Do you have any really good Henry stories about Pravda?
Very well. At the closing night, at approximately 3 o'clock in the morning, Henry works upstairs on the second floor. Back then, Dabney also was his friend. He worked there.
Dagny?
Dabney, yes.
Oh, yeah.
The writer. Oh. And Henry, as I call him, Uncle Henry, he came downstairs because the night before he came from Louisiana with a plastic bag straight from the airport to the bar with crabs, Louisiana crabs, frozen crabs, put it on top of the bar, made us do a shot at 3 o'clock in the morning, and he showed us the crab that he bought in Louisiana. That is very memorable, very vivid memory. What a great times we had.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Jay, Dushan, and Igor all worked there also?
They worked after
Billy?
my time, yes.
Oh, after your time, okay.
Yeah. Igor actually was the bar back then. And then I quit, and he started being the bar manager, I believe. And then so on, the story leads to Employees Only with Henry.
Tell me a bit about this bar and the history. It's quite old.
The 1817, it's the second oldest bar in New York City. And it used to be a sailor's bar, like whale hunters.
Oh, wow.
The water would come all the way up on the front where you can see the big ship docks that they ship.
It's all landfill west of here, right?
Yes, exactly. James Brown, not the musician James Brown. It was a African-American who was the famous whale hunter too. And he came over here with this whole crew. And upstairs is kind of like a museum where Rip is living. And it's an institution, I have to tell you. And we have a lot of regulars here. This bar is based by regulars from people from this neighborhood, Tribeca, and musicians, actors, they come here. And I've been here since 3 years now and work with absolutely great individuals, bartenders, that I literally call this my home.
I looked it up today. James Brown is actually in the famous painting of George Washington crossing the Delaware. And I had never noticed that there was a black man in that painting until today.
Yeah.
You have to look a bit closely. There are a lot of people in the boat.
Yeah.
I was told the upstairs has been a doctor's office, a brothel. It's just
They found so many things,
everything you can
artifacts
think of.
here. old glasses, bullet shells, rifles. They found everything in the basement and then also upstairs where people lived. It was a brothel in one point. People drink in and go upstairs and do their thing.
And I believe like McSorley's at some point, it was maybe only men were allowed in here at some point. Yeah. There's a debate, obviously, in New York. People say this is the oldest continually operated bar. This is the oldest bar, the oldest structure.
Question from customers, which one is the oldest bar?
Yeah. So yeah, I'm very curious, like having met the large personality that is Charles Schuman, what was it like to work with the guy? Was he hands-on at that point? Was he still teaching, or is it the kind of?
He's a legend. When I started working for him, I was 21. And Charles Schuman at that time was like 45. In my book, he's my mentor. I learned everything about the bar culture from Charles Schuman at the age of 21. And I met a lot of people, painters, back in the 80s. The people came in, I mean, Rolling Stones, you name it, De Niro. They came for a show in Munich, and they ended up at Charles Schuman's bar. Naturally, because it was just a classic American bar. That I started as a dishwasher, washing the glasses right at the bar, and just like mingling with people like up close. And honestly, the dress code for the bartenders, it was like white apron that I still practice and a white jacket with your name on.
Do you say it's an American bar? Is that the kind of style that he's based on?
Yes, American classic bar. Very minimalism. He is a great fan, big fan of Japan, that he's already like in the midst of opening up a bar in Kyoto, Schuman's bar. And this guy, my mentor Charles, is like in the 80s and he's still going. And I picked up even boxing because he's also a boxer.
You know, I met him when they were shooting his documentary. He was friends with a lot of the employees only guys. They were senior to me at the time. You know, Steve Schneider, Dev Johnson, Dushan, Jay, Igor, Henry, etc. And I remember he came in and I didn't know, we'd had a bar meeting, and then this very lively German guy in his late 70s comes through the door with his long white hair slicked back and a tweed or linen suit, you know, with a camera crew behind him. I had no idea what was going on. And he's shaking everybody's hand.
Was it a red linen suit? That's favorite
I believe
color?
so, yeah. And you know, he's, you know, death grip handshake, still has this strong grip. And funny enough, like I'm awkwardly in the documentary in that moment, you know, looking back when I watched it, you know, at the time I had no idea who he was.
Yeah.
So after Schuman's, you moved to New York. Did you seek New York specifically, or were you just looking to go to a bigger city and some opportunity popped up?
Specifically New York City. Why? Because New York, from the TV, from all the movies that I watched in Munich, Germany, in the 80s, Kojak, Streets of Manhattan, the grittiness, Telly Savalas, the detective, and Mean Streets, wanted me to come to New York and also go to acting school because it's such a raw city, unlike Los Angeles or Chicago. I stuck around here after studying. Plan was honestly just to be in New York for a year, but I got hooked. It's a love and hate relationship in New York. And yes, New York changed drastically. Like all the old diners, the bars, Chumley's bar, you know, Milano's is still around. Then came along Pravda, hotel bars, this and that, you know. I mean, I've seen New York. Definitely, I'm very happy and proud to say that. The grittiest time, the 80s and 90s.
Tell me a bit about like what your first bar experience is, because you're coming from Schuman's, which is a highly regarded, let's say, dare I say, rigid cocktail program. And then you're coming to New York City and presumably working in nightclubs and, you know, maybe dive bars, things like that.
I was very surprised that after coming from Schuman's bar in Munich, that New York did not represent what Charles Schumann did. Like, when you enter Charles Schuman's, you're thinking of like entering 1940s bar.
Yeah.
But in New York, I did not see that. And my first job, as I said, was at the Copacabana, a Latin bar, Latin club, where they shot Goodfellas and all kinds of movies. No, there was a Cosmopolitan, maybe a Long Island iced tea, but not the cocktail program that I witnessed at Charles Schuman.
Yeah, I imagine that fresh juices and things of that nature were just gone.
Gone.
At that point, yeah.
Absolutely. It was like the syrups and all the stuff that we used in Charles Schuman. It did not exist here.
Yeah,
You know,
I remember.
stirring did not exist in New York for me.
No, I'd never seen a stirring spoon. I never saw one until I worked in a cocktail bar.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that was like kind of like a shock because you think American bar from America, but it was not like that.
Like what happened in between Schneider and Copacabana? Were you doing more sticking with nightclubs? High volume, that kind of thing?
Yeah. I worked in nightclubs called Float, 57th Street, and 2nd Avenue. No, Broadway, sorry. They're called Float. I worked for a short time with Joshua Schwartz, if I may name his name. He got me into Studio 54. Then it became a cabaret show. Yeah,
Right.
5-6 years I worked in clubs. But then I did not care about bar culture. I just cared about making the big bucks. Bottle service, pretty woman, superstars. Like, I mean, I must say, I've seen people come and go.
What have you seen in this time? Like, what would you say are some of the pitfalls or problems that the industry faces, maybe as it changes, and then maybe what are some of the things you think are working better?
Look, obviously it's a new generation and new crowds of NYU students. They have their right to live it up, but they missed somehow the New York in the 90s, 80s, whatever I've seen. They missed that. So for them to come here, and we have a cash register, which is an old one. Now we had to switch to a computerized. In a place like this, it just doesn't look right. And then, of course, the credit cards, we only used cash, and now it became Apple Pay. It just lost the flair of the cash that was a plus for all the bartenders. Now it's just that.
And you're not walking home with the stacks.
No. It took me in a cab ride from Manhattan to Brooklyn a half an hour, and I'm still counting my 20s in the car.
Yeah.
So that's gone.
And I think for the people that were maybe high or just generous, the idea of throwing you hundreds, it felt flamboyant. Their dates could see that, their friends could see it.
Yeah,
That's doesn't really exist in the same way with credit cards and tap pay.
No.
All right, Eugene, thank you for coming on, and I was very
pleasure. Thank you.
Very excited to have you as our first guest on Behind Bars. Yeah, everybody, please come and see Eugene at this wonderful old bar. Have a Guinness. Do you guys still do the mutton stew?
Yes, we do.
Nice.
Shepherd's pie.
Beautiful.
And so on. Yes.
Thanks for joining us for our first episode of Behind Bars. Tune in next time, and please like and subscribe. It really helps the channel, and we'll see you soon.